I've had a few friendships with guys develop in the last few months, and I can't help but notice that these friendships faded some time after I mentioned having a boyfriend. Now, these friendships were always platonic from the start, at least to me, and I never noticed any sexual or romantic hints from these men either. Yet, somehow, it feels like they lost interest in this friendship when they realized I'm not single. I do have a few other close male friends, and everything seems fine with them, so I'm assuming I'm not driving them away. This was not something I experienced back when I was single. In general, it just feels like men are uncomfortable around me once they find out that I have a boyfriend. Do men somehow feel like they're crossing someone else's territory or worried about your female friend's jealous boyfriend? I just can't seem to wrap my head around it, and it's made it difficult for me to maintain friendships with men. Edit. Fixed a typo. Thanks for the advice, lovely men of Ask Men. Just adding in one detail. The men I spoke about in my post have never met my boyfriend, and I never initiated a meet. Primarily because we're currently in a long-distance relationship or these friends were long-distance friends. Story 1, a couple of things come to mind, and it's basically the two things you've already touched on. It could be that these guy friends had romantic or sexual intentions all along and no longer see you as an option. It could also be that, despite an interest in being friends, they are uncomfortable developing a close friendship with a woman who is in a relationship with another man. My money would be on the former. Story 2. I personally tend to step back a bit from my female friends whenever they get in a relationship. It's not that I lose interest, but the thing is, many guys, myself included to some extent, see male friends of their girlfriends as someone who might potentially want to hook up with her. So, in order to avoid having problems with jealous boyfriends, I do back off a bit. I won't drop the friendship. I will respond if she reaches out. I just won't take the initiative of making myself present in her life as often, and I'll avoid being alone with her behind his back. Now, there is a difference between the guys just moving a bit back but still being there, and outright ghosting you. If it's the latter, they were never your friends, just trying to hook up, and dropped you when you mentioned the boyfriend. Story 3. I have on one occasion, though more usually I don't. The reason I did when it happened is that my friend and her boyfriend became a package deal. They were always together. I didn't dislike the boyfriend, but we had no interests in common. So all the things I used to enjoy doing with my friend became awkward because we'd be excluding her boyfriend. I tried getting into some of the activities the two of them enjoyed, but they just weren't up my alley. As long as my friends remain individuals and don't always have to bring their partners along, I don't see any reason for romantic relationships to get in the way of friendship. Story 4. That has happened to me, but it is usually because the boyfriend is jealous and does not want her hanging around me. Also, I am a jokester, so I always joke around with my female friends, and some of them suddenly find it inappropriate once they are in a relationship, so they naturally distance themselves from me. I have no problem being friends with a girl who has a boyfriend. It does not change the way I treat them. Story 5. It can be any number of reasons from individual to individual. Making sweeping generalizations can be harmful to your future friendships with guys. That being said, in my experience, there have been girls I've been friends with that could have gone to the next level. I made a move, got denied, and stayed friendly friends. I didn't make a move, they got boyfriends, and I pulled back. Also, there are girls I've been friends with since grade 7. They are more like sisters. They've helped shape me into the man I am today. We kind of grew up together through all their bad boyfriends and my bad girlfriends. I have newer friends that have gotten into relationships I know are mistakes, but people need to learn on their own, so for the sake of our friendship, I pulled back. I don't need to be part of that multi-car pileup. There are also people I've just lost touch with for no apparent reason. It happens to many friends. People are people. People are always growing and changing. Stick to the people who make you happy and better. Just because someone was bad to you doesn't make them a bad person. They're learning to be people also. So go easy on yourself and your people. Story 6. A significant problem you're encountering is how typically male and female friendships work. Males are socialized to not share feelings deeper than work frustrations in friendship. They share deeper feelings in relationships. Females are taught to share all feelings and vent in relationships. When a female vents deeper feelings with a male and encourages the male to share, as a platonic friend, males are subconsciously triggered into thinking the friendship is more than platonic. Thank you, kind giver of gold. I hope my comment helped somehow in these trying times. Thank you, kind stranger, for the additional award. Story 7. The obvious answer is they saw you as a potential romantic interest and decided to pull back when that wasn't an option anymore. Another possibility is that they feel like they are having to do all the work in the friendship because you prioritize your boyfriend. I don't know if this is the case in your situation, so they once again cut their losses. Sometimes these two are intertwined a bit. Story 8. I have plenty of female friends in relationships, and it doesn't bother me, but I can say guys get really annoyed if they think a girl mentions their boyfriend as a way to warn the guy. Even if you did not think your male friend was interested in you, it's possible his interpretation of you bringing up your boyfriend is that you want him to know not to try anything. My advice is just to be delicate about when you talk about your boyfriend and the way you talk about him. Story 9. I have female friends who are married. They are with good people, and I'm not going to cut them off. I also stopped being friends with women who started dating unpleasant people. I'm not there for relationship therapy, which often happens when women start dating unpleasant people and want to ask all their male friends why their new boyfriend is such a bad choice. I have also had a couple of women disappear after they started dating, only to reappear when they inevitably become single. I cut those friendships off too because I have self-respect and am not a turnstile. There is absolutely no reason why men and women cannot be friends, even those who are dating other people. Story 10. All people prioritize what they do and invest time in. You might have met some introverted men who would not have talked to you to begin with if you were not attractive to them. Many introverts need very few friends. Over time, they chose to allocate more time to other relationships and decided there would not be an opening to be more than friends. Nothing sinister at all, just people being people. Story 11. I have had platonic women friends, but whenever they mention their boyfriends, and I'm aware they have one, it makes it seem like they want me to back off, even though I want to be strictly platonic. At the same time, I want to give enough distance and respect to their relationship. It's easier to just end the friendship than walk on eggshells. That's just me, though. Story 12. A big thing is the things I like to do are now cast in a strange light. I like to drink. I invite your girlfriend out for a drink, and she comes home drunk, talking about how much fun she had. That's going to put a lot of guys off. I like to watch movies, so I invite your girlfriend over for a movie. Sketchy. I invite her out to go see a movie. Sketchy. What are we supposed to do now that's not put into question? Story 13. You have to remember that guys are often taught to develop a friendship before asking someone out. We have no idea how long this is supposed to take, and we are prone to doubting ourselves along the way. These guys might have pursued a friendship because they liked you but gave up when you started dating someone. Story 14. One thing I can think of is something one of my old best friends in high school did. She was one of the greatest, smartest people I would ever talk to while she was single. But whenever she was in a relationship, everything was about her boyfriend, and she went from a junior scientist to a stereotypical blonde. If it really isn't an issue where they like you and you just don't see it, there is a chance that, while not as dramatic, they see interactions with you as too much about your boyfriend. After you mention him, either their perception changes or there's a personality change in yourself that you don't notice. Lastly, it could be that your boyfriend makes some of them uncomfortable. If they've met the guy and feel like he wouldn't like them, there's a chance that is turning them away. But I would guess that most like you and want to know more about you before flirting with you, and when they learn about your boyfriend, they slowly bail. They might be just using the friendship as a precursor to a relationship. Story 15. If I don't like her new boyfriend, or he doesn't like me, that puts a strain on the friendship. Even if her boyfriend and I get along well, that can also be a disincentive to get closer to her as a friend because of the implication and how it can look. It can even be a reason to be a little less close to her out of respect for their relationship boundaries, and not wanting to risk ending up in the position where I end up good enough friends with both of them that they both start confiding in me secretly about how miserable they are in the relationship. If I'm in a bad place about being single and she's going on and on about how happy she is and how perfect her relationship is, that's going to make me get sick of her really quickly. Granted, I don't really like hearing about that ad nauseum, even when I'm in a good place and happily in a relationship myself. I've had a few friendships with guys develop in the last few months, and I can't help but notice that these friendships faded sometime after I mentioned having a boyfriend. Even if I'm just looking for a friend, if I'm single, then a woman who is in a relationship is not going to be the most fertile ground for that. And again, there's the implication whenever a single guy who is attracted to women starts to get closer to a woman in a relationship, which is still different from already being friends with a woman before she started dating the guy and developed it into a committed long-term relationship and then later deepening that friendship. Do men somehow feel like they're crossing someone else's territory or worried about your female friend's jealous boyfriend? Those can certainly be factors. Another thing is that even if a straight or bisexual guy isn't explicitly looking to date a woman he's just met, if she's nice, he gets along with her, and she's decently attractive or hotter, he's generally not going to be opposed to developing a romantic interest in her and might even be open to it. Having that possibility decisively removed can be jarring or lead to the realization that they were more than just open to dating her but in fact had a budding interest in her romantically, sexually, or both. Story 16. Sometimes boyfriends are jealous or suspicious of platonic friends, and the friends don't want to be the cause of drama in an otherwise fine relationship. Guys who feel that way won't often tell the friend they feel that way until it's too late and they're already angry. If I'm not friends with the guy or don't know him, sometimes I'll step back just to avoid the possibility that he's jealous of his girlfriend having male friends. I understand that jealousy because some of those otherwise platonic friends are often happy to consider stealing her away from him, even if others wouldn't dream of it, and telling one type from the other is pretty impossible. So, you never know if your girlfriend's friend is secretly trying to steal her from you or not. Story 17. I know if it is me, and out of respect to the other guy, I would pull back. That doesn't mean she and I are not cool, and I would still help her out like a sister. I consider my close female friends as sisters. I just wouldn't want to be the cause of any drama or jealousy. Story 18. In many cases, it's you. Even unintentionally, you change how you treat your friends when you get a significant other. You pay less attention to them because you are paying more attention to your relationship. Nothing is necessarily wrong with that, but most guys are not going to try to compete for your attention. They will just give you space. Story 19. I have difficulty being friends with women too. It seems like most of them think of friendship with men as a consolation prize or an insult. Since you say your situation changed from when you were single, it is probably one of your two theories. That they had an interest in you or they do not want to be friends with another guy's girlfriend. I would love to see the culture change into something where platonic friendships between the sexes were a lot more common than they are, but there are so many barriers to that happening. Story 20. Something I haven't seen here yet is that couples are different than single people. It's hard to be friends with only half of a couple, but it's also hard to be friends with a couple when you're single. At least in my experience, my couple friends have different interests and life goals. So, they aren't as fun to be around eventually. Any girl who is worth being friends with and attractive is a potential romantic partner. Honestly, lots of guys take a while to decide if they are interested romantically and don't mind being friends first. I've personally been really good friends with a couple, both of them, where I would have stolen the girl in a hot second if the guy decided to mess it up. It's not fun. You feel like a bit of a bad person, even if you aren't actually doing anything wrong and you didn't get the feeling on purpose. So, if it's in the early stages, guys might opt to just back off and not risk getting too close and catching feelings. Also, jealous boyfriends are a real thing, because any guy hanging out alone with your girlfriend might be trying to make something happen. Story 21. It really depends on the guy and how they view your friendship. Personally, most of my friends are women, so it never really bothered me if they have a significant other. Granted, it also helps that I'm happily spoken for, but when I was single, as I said, if most of your friends are women, it doesn't make a huge difference. It's the norm. That said, I can think of two circumstances where it might make a difference. One, when you have a significant other that isn't very integrated into your friend group, it has less to do with your male friends than with you. There are some friends I see less since I have a girlfriend, simply because your significant other takes up a significant amount of your time and is ideally your best friend. The same goes in reverse too. The second reason could be that if you're close friends with a guy, he actually did have romantic or sexual interest in you and just repressed it around you, in which case it's jealousy. If it's the latter reason, I really doubt you want to hang out with them long-term if they can't get over it. Nevertheless, it's a very natural instinct, and they can't entirely be blamed. Story 22. Pretty much going to be echoing what other guys have already said here. But there are a couple of possible factors. There could be some romantic feelings. It's not necessarily that they mind being in the friend zone, but they're holding that torch hoping it turns into something else. When you're no longer single, that can just be the final nail in the coffin, and he's lost interest. Sad but true. Boyfriends sometimes get jealous. Could be they caught bad vibes from your boyfriend, or they're being overly cautious to make sure there are no problems with him. They could just be giving you space. No one likes being a third wheel, and some couples can be kind of obnoxious about going everywhere together and being all lovey-dovey, so they just don't want to deal with that. It's kind of a mix of points 2 and 3. Could be he just doesn't like your boyfriend. There are some personality types that just don't jive well together. Sometimes it's one-sided, sometimes it goes both ways. If he thinks your boyfriend is annoying, and especially if you and your boyfriend are the we do everything together type, he could just be avoiding you to avoid having to deal with your boyfriend. Dynamics change when you're in a relationship. Dating often takes up a sizable chunk of your social life, leaving less time for friends. Sometimes it's just too hard to make schedules work out to maintain a friendship. Make sure that you're putting in the effort, especially if you've had to previously turn down doing things with your friends. They might have gotten the impression that you don't want to hang out anymore.